Hello and welcome to another video from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. Today I'm joined by David to look at the best fantasy Premier League captaincy options for game week 17. David, welcome, how are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. It was a good weekend of fantasy football, but combined with an illness in my family household, so I'm still slowly recovering from that. So hopefully I don't sound too lethargic in this video, as we've got some important things to discuss.
We have, and you're exactly the man to discuss it with, because your 100% captaincy record was maintained in game week 16. So
yeah, it's just getting ridiculous now.
So we all need to know who you're going to be captaining. So let's start off with some of the key candidates then. And looking at the fixtures, the one that stands out for me, not just because of my team, but even if I didn't own him, is Spurs against Burnley. Burnley, as we know, an atrocious defence. Harry Kane had his rest. He looks nailed on to start, and well, it looks a great fixture for him. So yeah, is Harry Kane the runaway leader?
For me, absolutely. He's who I put the captaincy straight on when I set my bus team on Saturday. Just based, obviously there's. We're going to talk about some other candidates who actually I don't have. Which doesn't mean they're bad candidates by any stretch, but I think a lot of people, especially we know that Kane's effective ownership in the top 10k is now really high. Yeah. I think there's a lot of wild cards played in game week 15, a lot of transfers in from then. So I think he's the standout for most people, and he's currently winning the poll as well on Fantasy Football Scout at the time we were recording it. So and obviously the case is very strong. So there's numbers when we look at the last four game weeks, a little bit skewed because he didn't play the whole game against Leicester, but despite only playing 15 minutes in that game, only one player's had more shots on target than him in the last four game weeks. And obviously going into that game, he was top of the charts. A couple of weeks ago, he was top of that particular stat, and it was exactly double second place. So he is exactly where we want him to be if he's starting games, which I think he will. I think that rest against Leicester puts him in good stead to start the Champions League game and the league game afterwards.
Exactly.
And then of course, Burnley defences, they're not quite so bottom of the pile as they were, but it's not. I don't really think it's through any massive improvement of their own in terms of the shots they're allowing. It's just a case of Bournemouth had been particularly worse. So by every analysis of the Burnley defence, there's still going to be a lot of chances for Kane to I think have a good game week.
No, I agree. I think it can give the appearance. The last game week can give the appearance that Burnley are improving defensively. Perhaps they are, but they were against Brighton, who were very weak in attack away from
especially home. Away from home as well. Yeah.
And of course, Bournemouth's defence is in free fall, and Liverpool really exploited that. But once again, they were against Liverpool. They were against a very very potent Liverpool attack there, particularly with Mo Salah. Looking at the last four game weeks, shots in the box conceded. Burnley still up there with Bournemouth. They're tied joint worst there, 46 they've conceded as well. And as I said, in terms of goal attempts, overall shots conceded, they're comfortably top there over the last four. If we don't go for Kane, there are people without Kane. Perhaps they've gone for Aubameyang, perhaps they want to keep Salah, and they're looking for a cut price option. What about Son? Now, he has impressed of late. 3 goals last 4 game weeks, 16 goal attempts in the last 4 game weeks. Meanwhile, Kane is on 11. Obviously, he's only played 3 and a bit matches there. So he's pretty much matching, really, in underlying stats, what Kane's doing. Yeah, Son, a good alternative for non-Kane owners?
Yeah, absolutely. When we're talking about differential captains, he's got to be one of the best that we've had in a while, because it's not just a case of he's poorly owned. It's a case of he's behaving in the underlying sense like a premium asset that everybody's got. Because as you just mentioned, they're performing very very well in the last 4 game weeks for shots and shots on target especially. And like you say, he's matching Kane in terms of sort of per minute, and obviously he's got more than Kane in the last couple of weeks because he's played more games than him. And it's a really intriguing one because I tipped him as a differential captain on the FPL show last week, and then when they said, "Are you going to consider getting him?" I said no, because I don't think I'm not 100% certain that he'll start.
Yeah,
but he has actually started the last 4 in a row, which is more than can be said for Kane, more than can be said for Eriksen. And I think with the Asian Cup coming up in sort of mid-January for him, entirely possible that Poch might just play him the whole way through and make sure that he can rest people like Lamela and Mora as much as he can over that period, so that when Son is away, he has fresh alternatives. I'm not saying that Mora and Lamela are not going to play any games and that Son's going to play all of them, but I think it's possible that he's probably more assured of a start right now, especially the form he's in as well, than usual. Because of course that start is the key. That's if you're torn, but say you've got Son and Kane, you go Kane because you're sure he's going to start. But if you don't have Kane, I wouldn't consider Son as likely to be rotated as usual.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely with the midweek game against Barcelona, this is being recorded before that. So if we see Son on the bench for that, for example, well, I think if you're a Son owner, you should be very, very happy with the weekend coming, because that would indicate a start there. Now, another fixture that really sprung out really is Man City. They're back at home and they're against an Everton side, which I thought was was improving. In terms of their defence, but against Watford they didn't look so good, and I thought if Watford can do that to them, what the hell can Raheem Sterling and co do to them? So last time we saw Raheem Sterling, he was being played as a false nine along with Hazard at Chelsea as well. So what do we think about Man City assets? Sterling still the top choice, or others in the mix?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we should definitely just start by saying that this is still a fixture I think we should look at. Not everybody's got a Spurs option, so and lots of people have piled in on Man City options. And yeah, I think this particular, Man City are just ridiculous at home. We don't really need to go into too much detail about what they're like at home. We know what they can do to any team there. Everton, on the other hand, also they're coming to the Etihad Stadium, kind of in a position where I would really fancy Man City to score lots of goals against them specifically, because when you saw defensive statistics for just away matches, Everton are 16th for big chances conceded, and they're kind of in the same bracket as Huddersfield, Cardiff, Burnley, in that region of the table in away matches. So again, it's a really nice matchup in terms of the game itself. And of course, the complicated factor always is who is the best one to go for. And yeah, I think Sterling's got to be the best one based on his individual form and the fact that I think he should start that game. I mean, I think this Champions League match they've got, I could see him maybe being rested for that. I mean, Aguero is going to be out, so probably maybe Jesus will play up front. And there's a few injuries. I mean, yeah, it's tricky Man City right now because there are a few injuries. So in one sense, it means that possibly rotation is less likely. But in another sense, are they going to be playing more minutes than Pep wants them to? So yeah, it's a tricky one. I think Sterling's probably the best one. And then outside of that, I mean, so I got Sané right now. He's the kind of person that I'd maybe think about in this game. But the other person I think we should definitely think about, if it looks like they're going to play, is probably Sergio Aguero, if anyone out there still has him, because he's a chance he could play at the weekend, according to Pep. That's what he said. Thankfully, it was from Pep and not Jamie Jackson that we got that update. And we'll obviously have another press conference, hopefully after the game in the Champions League, and then another one on Friday. And if we find out that he's fit to play, and you are one of these people who still has him for whatever reason, then in home games this season, as we all know, he's just been absolutely ridiculously dominant. So it's worth just considering that he's sort of still quietly there and could be back very soon.
Yeah, I mean, once again, we've got to look at the midweek team sheets as well. That will give us some indication of who will play, who might get a rest as well. Sané didn't do so well against Chelsea and was taken off. More tactical, really. I don't think that's a permanent thing for Sané, but he did get in effect half a game's rest. Really, he couldn't get the better of the Chelsea defence, nor indeed could Sterling as well. So there's no slight on them there. One of the things that did intrigue me was Everton's performance against Watford. That really did change my thoughts between thinking I might be able to do without Sterling to I think Sterling could do me some damage as I don't own him. So Everton conceded 15 shots in total against Watford, and 11 of those were from close range as well. I thought that if Watford can get a couple of goals from that, what the devil can Man City do? And the conclusion is quite a lot. I mentioned Hazard as well. He, like Sterling, he was deployed as a false nine as well. So he's up against Brighton. Now this could be a good game for him. I don't know if you can remember, cast your mind back to last season. Chelsea ran out comfortable isn't the word. They absolutely hammered Brighton 4-0. Could have been much more. Hazard scored a brace and came away with a huge points haul there. I think he'll be looking forward to this fixture. What do we think about Hazard this week? Quite a nice differential to those perhaps going for Kane. Also, do we think he's going to start as a false nine again?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think if you've still got Hazard, you clearly think that he's worth having over the likes of Sterling or Salah, because I mean that we've all had Hazard, and those who have wanted a Man City midfielder. So I mean, I sold him for Sané, for example. A lot of people did that. Some people sold him for Sterling, depending on how much money they had. If you still said I want to keep Hazard, then I guess you have to be considering him as a captain candidate most weeks. And as you say, against Brighton last year, did very well. The funny thing is, that was the week I sold him last year after he trolled me so much over sort of the January period. I had enough. So I sold him that morning. And then he rewarded me with something like an 18-point haul, as he traditionally does when people sell him. So maybe that could happen again.
It's a real heart-sink moment. One that Salah ditches would have experienced on Saturday.
A lot of people have had that, haven't they? But I mean, I think... Yeah, whether or not he starts in the false nine, I don't know. It's an interesting one. I mean, obviously, they beat Man City with him in that position. So, I mean, it's hard to say that it didn't work. I think one particular point on Hazard is a lot of people have ditched him, myself included, because while his creativity has been very good, so last 4 game weeks, he's top for chances created. Well, Hazard has 4 assists in the last 3 game weeks. So, the creativity that he's showing is still being converted into attacking points. So there's a lot of reasons why, if you've got Hazard, then I think you should consider him.
Okay. I mean, the goal attempts there are quite something for Hazard as well over the last 4, with those 11 shots as well. So that's on a par with Kane. Obviously, he's had a few more minutes than Kane, but that is. I mean, he's got that full complement of points. So he's got the goal scoring ability, the creativity for assists, and of course bonus as well. And it's psychological. It depends whether people are really into the history repeating itself, and they'll look back at that Brighton game and assume exactly the same will happen again. But yes, perhaps they will. In current form, they definitely could. Now another top flight team, another top flight team rather, with a great fixture is Arsenal. Playing Southampton, and Aubameyang only got an assist last time out, but he looks another good option, do you think, for this game week as a captain?
Yeah, I think that this is the kind of game that I'd rather captain him in than the Huddersfield game. So I mean, I was a little bit of a naysayer for Arsenal in that particular match, and it was mainly just to do with, and it will sound weird, but it was mainly just to do with Huddersfield, because they kind of came into that match not really in a position that looked like they were going to get smashed, because they weren't in the same bracket. When you looked at their the underlying data for their defence, they weren't really in the same bracket as your Burnleys, your Bournemouths, and your Fulhams, and your Southamptons, who obviously Arsenal are playing this week. And I think that they've obviously got this new manager, and he's defensive improvement has got to be high on his list of priorities, because their defence under Mark Hughes was just atrocious. But does he have the personnel to achieve that? I don't know. I don't really rate a lot of the players that he's got defensively there. But also, it's just the fact that it takes time. And I think that that team is obviously going to be in some form of transition, because the manager wants to make changes. Whereas Arsenal are kind of offensively. I mean, I think Saturday was a bit of a blip, because Aubameyang and Lacazette, if they'd have scored them sitters in the first half, it could well have been a 3 or 4-0, because it would have just changed the dynamic. But generally speaking, they are a team that have clicked offensively, and Southampton, they're not a team that have clicked yet. So while Aubameyang and Lacazette, I mean, the reason I've not really looked at either of them in recent weeks is that their underlying statistics aren't that good in terms of, or rather, I mean, it depends how you look at it. It's an opinion, really. I mean, they don't really compare with Kane, for example, because they don't shoot very often. Yes, maybe they're accurate when they do shoot. But if they're not shooting as much, then it doesn't matter if they're accurate if they're not shooting. But in a game like this, they will get the chances, and I think after kind of only just kind of tumbling over the line with a 1-0 win against Huddersfield, they'll be going all guns blazing for this.
Yeah, I mean, Aubameyang, I think he has had the shots, definitely. Lacazette just hasn't had the time, so it is quite hard to judge. I noticed Aubameyang over the last 4 game weeks has 14 shots, so it's just 2 behind Son. So he's been having a go, but the level of shots on target, so the shots you're going to notice really, it's just 5 there. So Son's had 9, and Kane's had 7 in far less minutes as well. I like Aubameyang. He'll be my Sky captain, I believe, for one of the days. I do think this is a good. I do agree with you as fixture. But I did look at the defensive stats for Southampton, and they're sort of mid-table. They're neither like really atrocious or really good. They're just kind of middling through. Which, when you see teams like that, it can indicate they're going to concede, but maybe only one or two. So there's a slight caveat there, I think. But there may be some better options for the captaincy. Now, looking at the fixtures once again, I've liked the look of West Ham anyway in the last 3-4 weeks. Especially, I believe they scored 9 goals in the last 3 fixtures, and they're up against Fulham. And it's this fella here, Anderson. I think looks a really good differential captaincy pick, especially if you don't own Kane. What do you think of West Ham assets, in particular Anderson, for the captaincy?
Yeah, West Ham look great. I think this is. I can't remember a West Ham team that looked this consistently attacking for a very long time. I think they haven't won 3 games in a row by scoring 3 goals in each one since the 80s or something, was what came out of the weekend. So I mean, this is quite a good West Ham team, even by their own standards. So and Anderson looks great. Obviously, he's become the new West Ham poster boy amongst FPL managers since Arnautovic got injured. I really like him. I think if you are looking for a really left field captain, worth considering. I would like to just raise 2 others, because actually, and this is coming from someone who can't really find a way for Anderson into my team, just because of various things I want to fix and sort of the pricing of other players, etc. Snodgrass and Chicharito also look like really nice options as well. Just some of the numbers that they've been posting. So Anderson is the most expensive, and I think with good reason, because he seems to be offering creative ability and goals. But Chicharito's had more shots inside the box in the last 4 game weeks than Felipe Anderson, and has played less minutes. So obviously his minutes per shot inside the box is better, and he's a lot cheaper. And then on the other side of the game, Robert Snodgrass, 11 chances created to Anderson's 4, and obviously got 2 assists against Cardiff, and then scored a lovely goal on the weekend as well. And he's obviously just 5.3. So, just while we're on the subject of West Ham assets, Anderson looks really nice, but there are 1 or 2 others who could also be very good as well. Yeah,
I mean, I think Fulham are there for the taking as well. So the last 4 matches, they've conceded 9. Only Bournemouth have conceded more. They've shipped 44 shots in the box. Only Bournemouth and Burnley have conceded more there. So, if I get him in, he very well may be my vice captain this week. That's how highly I rate him, just behind Kane there. Anderson, meanwhile, scored 5 and created another goal across his last 6. He's also earned bonus in 4 of those matches, and he has 4 double-digit hauls this season. That screams armband to me. What about some of the other fixtures? Are there any other candidates or differentials we might consider?
Well, I mean, I think Liverpool in this video have been conspicuous by their absence thus far, and I think it's just worth talking about them, because obviously there's already a lot of people who've signed Salah because he's banged in a hat-trick against Bournemouth, which is just the nature of FPL, isn't it? But I mean, I've found a little great stat today that apparently Salah, Firmino, and Mane have never scored or assisted against Man United in the Premier League.
Wow. Okay.
Crazy. So it's one of those things where I'm probably not going to captain Salah this week, even though he scored a hat-trick last week. Based off just the fact that Man United defensively, they're not amazing, but I don't know. That feels like the kind of game where Mourinho will go and park the bus. Yeah. And it might work, which is weird because they haven't, 2 clean sheets this year. It kind of makes you think that they could go through them, but it's something about it's always unquantifiable with Mourinho. It's something about the occasion of some of these particular matches that just changes it completely, and you have to see it in isolation rather than look at what they've been like in the form book, because they seem to be the kind of team that can turn up against most of the other big teams apart from Man City. And then the reason that everybody thinks they will capitulate is because they've done that against Southampton, or they've done it against Newcastle, or they've done it against West Ham. Yeah, that seems to be the way they're playing this year. So I don't really think there's a lot to offer for Liverpool assets in that game. No, I mean, it's not the kind of game I'm going to sell them for. Probably not. But when you've got the likes of Spurs at home against Burnley, Man City against Everton, some of these differentials like Anderson or some of the West Ham guys, it's probably not worth considering a Liverpool option this week for the captain. Yeah, no,
I'm going to play Robertson this week. I think that's going to be, if we were to play the guess the 0-0, that looks like a 0-0. Mourinho's form, irrespective of that hat trick. I think there's some great options there. I mean, for you and I think it's mainly about Kane, but I think there are some really strong alternatives there, particularly amongst Man City assets. Aubameyang as well, Hazard, and Anderson as well. And in fact, a whole bunch of West Ham assets, really, really nice differentials there. But for now, David, thanks so much for your time, and good luck with the game week.
Cheers, and to you as well.